So, the sports world is always looking for that next big thing. Typically, the next big thing is some physically dominant specimen who is unbelievably skilled and talented. But every once in a while, the next big thing isn't all that big. Enter Aquille Carr, aka the Crime Stopper, which is one of the coldest nicknames ever, especially the way he got it. This kid was a 5'7", 150-pound high school phenom who was electrifying the country, and anybody who watched high school hoops in the early 2010s knew this kid was a certified hooper. So what happened to him and his basketball career? Well, let's get into it. Here's the Aquille Carr story. Drop the intro. Aquille Carr was born to parents Tammy Carr and Alan Carr on September 28, 1993. He was raised on the east side of Baltimore, which is a rough area known for gangs, violence, drugs, and a lot of other terrible stuff. But Carr didn't let this distract him because he had someone to look up to, and that was his father, who was a basketball legend in his own right. His father, who stood 6'2" and was said to be able to jump out the gym back in the day, and actually gave him the name Alan Starr, which is alright. So Aquille had something to work with because he definitely had the skills of his father. The only problem was that he wasn't blessed with the size of his father, and instead inherited his height from his mother's side, who only stood at a modest 4'11". Now, Aquille didn't let this bother him too much. Instead, he just decided to outwork the bigger players and teach them not to take him lightly because of his stature. And his trust in his game did exactly that, because as a freshman at Patterson High School, in his first game, he went for a near triple-double with 20 points, 10 assists, and 6 steals. He followed up that great performance the next week with a 38-point performance against the defending state champions, in which he scored 15 of his 38 points in the fourth quarter alone. But the craziest thing that happened in this game actually started with a steal from Aquille, where he took it down the court and dunked on 6'5" shooting guard Nick Foss. So this man had some ups, he was a bucket, man was putting on a show. After this game is when he would receive his famous nickname, the Crime Stopper, because it was rumored by police officers that crime basically stops when he's playing, because all the gangbangers and criminals come to watch him go to work. For those who thought he was overhyped at this point, he made sure to hush that with his performance against Josh Shelby, who was a senior and a top 5 prospect in the class of 2010. In that game, Aquille put up 39 points and 19 assists, while leading his team to victory. He finished his freshman year with averages of 25.5 points, 8 assists, and 5.3 steals, and was named Max Preps Freshman of the Year. He followed up his freshman year with an even crazier sophomore season, because in his sophomore year, he was no longer just a local legend. He started to become known across the globe with some crazy performances, with his most notable performance, which was a 57-point game against Forest Park to win the Big Miller Christmas Classic. And during another performance where he scored 29 points to lead his team to the championship game, John Wall decided to reach out to him and ask him, does he want to work with his little brother? At this point, Aquille is the definition of a star, as he stays in contact with both John Wall and Brandon Jennings, 2 young and upcoming point guards in the league at the time. Brandon Jennings was the #1 player in his class just a few years ago, and John Wall was a top 5 player in his class just a few years ago. This guy hanging out with them, he's just in high school, he's just a sophomore, man's young, and still getting in with the big dog. That's nothing but respect there. But let's keep going. He wrapped up his sophomore year by leading his team to the championship game, but lost after having his worst performance of the year, where he only scored 27 points. Yeah, in his worst performance, this dude scored 27 points, where 20 of those points came in the second half, which is a great performance for most players. Like, man, if I had 27 points, I would have thought I was balling out that day back in high school, just saying. But hey, when you're a star, you just held to those higher standards, I guess, man. Dang, that's tough. But it also must be noted that he was dealing with a severe calf strain, which also helped to slow him down. He finished his sophomore year with averages of 31.3 points, 5.6 assists, and 4.5 steals. Now, during the spring and summer before his junior year, he participated in the Junior International Tournament in Milan, Italy. As the only sophomore on the team, he averaged over 30 points per game, leading the team to a gold medal. And in one particular game where he dropped 45 points, the fans were going nuts after that performance. And he even garnered some attention from Lodomica Virtus Roma. I know I pronounced that wrong. Which was actually the same team that signed Brandon Jennings when he first came out of high school. They reportedly offered him $750,000 whenever he decided to come play for the team. Like, you 16 years old. Well, Aquille's actually 17, but he's a 17-year-old sophomore, and he just got offered almost $1 million to go play basketball. When I was that age, when I was a sophomore in high school, I couldn't even get a job at McDonald's, man. I'm just saying. Man, I don't know what I would have been able to do with an offer like that. Man, let's get back into it though. Now, he never actually took them up on this offer, as he actually enjoyed playing basketball in Baltimore and knew that the city needed him. Also during the summer, he participated in the Carmelo Anthony Pro-Am, where he had a special highlight where he broke down a defender's ankles and then attacked the rim and finished over 6'11" center DeMarcus Cousins. Straight fearless. This led him to his junior season, which was much of the same as his sophomore year. He put up crazy numbers, averaging 24 points, 5 assists, and 3 steals per game, while also leading his team to their first state championship, where he dropped 28 points in the title game. He was also named All-Metro Boys Basketball Player of the Year for the second year in a row, and even committed to play for the Seton Hall. Up to this point in the story, for the most part, has been positivity. But there are 2 things that I failed to mention about Aquille, and those things are that he's a year older than the rest of his class, and that had an impact on his ability to play for his high school during his senior year. Due to this, he originally was going to transfer to a school in Florida, but opted to attend Princeton Day Academy, a prep school in Beltsville, Maryland. The other thing that I had to mention about Aquille was that he struggled with his anger sometimes, and the cause of this might have something to do with his height. Probably had a little case of little man syndrome, which caused him to put that chip on his shoulder, which helped his development and made him more of an alpha, but it also damaged other facets of your life. And again, this is all speculation, but Aquille's anger would cause him to get into these fits of rage where he would go off on reps and sometimes even coaches, and this started off when he was young. I mean, like in biddy ball. This is basically when this started. One of his former coaches actually was quoted saying that whenever we had an attitude situation, I would have to sit him on the bench and call his father, tell him, come and get your kid, man. This anger improved over the years though, but he did have an incident right before his senior season that involved an altercation between him and the mother of his child, which caused him to get arrested on a domestic assault charge. It is said that Aquille was upset because early in the day, she had called to break up with him. So he pulled up on her, told her to come outside. They started speaking, you know how that goes, before it eventually escalated. It is said that he threw her on the ground and kicked and punched her. Then he jumped back in his whip and left. After being arrested, he was released on $50,000 bond, and the charges would eventually be dropped after he completed a 22-week program at the House of Rules. After all that, he would go on to finish up his high school career and was ranked the 41st player in the nation and the 8th best point guard by 24/7 Sport. After high school, Carr had planned to attend Seton Hall, but due to academics, he wouldn't, so he decided to join the G League, where he was selected in the 3rd round by the Delaware 87ers. He stayed with the team from November of 2013 to January of 2014 before asking to be released because he was frustrated with the lack of playing time. He then entered the 2014 NBA draft, but went undrafted. After going undrafted, he signed a 1-year contract with the St. John Mill Rats of the Canadian National Basketball League. Aquille was suspended by the team twice during the season because of his inability to control his anger, and eventually ended up getting released about 3 months after signing the contract. Roughly 2 years later, Carr would resurface, signing a contract with the Baltimore Hawks of the American Basketball Association. He would leave the team in 2017 and sign with a team playing in the North League up in Europe. He then returned to the Baltimore Hawks in 2019, where in a game against the Roanoke Rising Stars, he dropped a career-high 65 points, so man still had game. This also broke the franchise record at the time. As things stand right now, this is the end of Aquille Carr's basketball career, and in my opinion, it was something to watch. Mans was legit and was one of the most electrifying hoopers in high school basketball history. Watching his mixtapes always got me hyped before playing in my own games, and he was incredible. Even though he had his issues, he's only human like the rest of us. Plus, I didn't go to law school, so I can't judge. With that all being said, don't get it twisted. He can still hoop from what I'm seeing in some of these most recent Balls Life videos, and I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes some kind of media personality similar to the Professor or something. But whatever he decides to do with his career moving forward, I wish him the best. And don't forget, if you like the video, leave your boy a like and jump into the comment section so we can get some discussion started. Also, don't forget to subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel and it'll be much appreciated. Thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.